grew up to know the Nigerian educational system. And this is actually questioning uh, student integrity as what seems to be wrong is now seen as the normal way of doing things in the Nigeria educational system. Like people feeling like coming into examination hall with expo or going to miracle centers, teachers trying to solve questions on the board before examination, during examination, normal things to be done. So this is actually questioning student integrity today, and many more, many more, many more. And so the core purpose of this project is to build build unblemished advocacy, intervention for deep understanding, uh, and not for us to continue to work on assumptions. And I think we tried to clear this yesterday. That's the core purpose or the main goal is to build unblemished advocacy interventions for deep understanding and not assumptions. And there are actually 5 pillars that will help us to build this this work. And the first is actually talking about academic integrity. Academic integrity. Why does malpractice happen? Why do students feel I cannot pass this examination without being involved in one form of malpractice or the other? And how is examination malpractice or learning malpractice now normalized in our institutions? So that is the very first pillar that we're looking at in this on this project. Academic integrity is malpractice happening, and how is it being normalized today in the Nigeria educational system? The second pillar is the learning culture. Uh, what is the declining rates like today in the Nigerian educational system, Nigerian schools? It's, how is it affecting the reading culture, the declining reading culture? What are the motivation for learning today? And how is learning being engaged? So what is the learning culture like currently in Nigeria? Uh, Many of us grew up learning with books, studying with books, art paper books, where you buy, go to markets, or our parents help us get some textbooks. Yes, they still use textbooks today, but speaking with someone writing O levels, and the person just sits with his Android phone, listening to voice notes or online lecture, and is learning. So, what is learning culture today like in the Nigerian system? The third pillar we're looking at is student pressure. What is the pressure around students at the moment? I was able to identify a few. Is it fear for failure? Yes, that could be a pressure. Is it fear for failure? Is it family expectation? Many other times, the expectation from family members is very so high than the student's capacity. You all know that no two persons are the same. So, what is the expectation like from the family system? Then, what is another pressure is the social media? Is social media mounting the pressure on people or students generally? So, the social media pressure. I think that should be the third slide. Yeah, thank you. So, social media mounting pressure, and then another pressure could be career anxiety. Uh, choosing of career nowadays is not as it used to be. Most times, There are no better counselors, educational counselors in schools to guide students according to their goal and capacity. So career anxiety also could create a number of pressure. Those days, once you're in science class, like a few of us were, it's always the dream of an average science class student then to be a medical doctor. I was in my secondary school reunion a few months ago, and someone was like, "Ah, you're not a doctor. Ah, what hospital?" I just smiled. No, I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a book. I'm a book doctor, like some people will say. So, career anxiety also push and pressure students a lot. So that is the third pillar. The fourth pillar is the mentorship gap. Is there? What is the gap like currently? Is there still uh, growth between teachers? Are teachers still helping in mentoring students? So, what is teacher influence? What is the missional support given to students? And what is the academic support given to students in the teaching learning process? And then the last pillar is the parents and the teachers. Uh, though we would have looked at teachers alone, but I think parents are very key in educational system. So, what is the parents' role? What are the teachers' role? What is the pressure from the home? What is the institutional culture? We now have schools in Nigeria that supports malpractice. Let me cite an example. Uh, I know of a friend who works in a school where now they just completed writing WAEC. I know he's not in town at the moment because he travels with his institution script to wherever WAEC will post that script to. Most likely, he's going to mark the script of his own student. He does not say like a few of us when we were in secondary school. So some institutions have actually legalized this malpractice in a way that their scripts are being marked by them, irrespective of where it's being marked in Nigeria. So that is how this educational system has been eroded today in Nigeria. So what is institutional culture like in the teaching learning process? And so the research goal is that we produce evidence-based insights to guide programs, mentorship, and advocacy strategy. So that is our goal. The goal of this research is that we produce an evidence-based insights that will guide programs, mentorship, and advocacy strategy. The next slide. Uh, the approach, these are the approach we actually be using. We first have the research first mindset. We prioritize truth over assumptions. We maintain objectivity. We represent students fairly, and we let data shape conclusion. So irrespective of what we've known before now, let's allow the research speak for itself. Yes, we might have an idea here and there, though we all came out from different schools and different contexts. But uh, our approach first is to allow the research speak for itself as we try to maintain objectivity, try to represent the students fairly. Many a times, it's not the fault of the students, it's the system they found themselves and allow the data speak so that will help us shape our conclusion. So, what are the phases of execution? You have a structural work in clear phase, design. Uh, After now, we show us the tools that we used in gathering this information. So that is the design phase. And then the field work, where a few of us will actually have to go to the field to gather information with the instruments that will be designed. Then we have the analysis stage where we have come back together now to analyze the data gotten from the field. Then the reporting stage, which actually results give the final work at the end of the day. So each phase reviewed before proceeding. So you cannot just jump from design to field without reviewing what design is like. So that is why after this phase, we actually still come back again to look at the instruments one after the other. Then we're going to have the collaborative leadership, where uh, every one of us are empowered for the work. We have regular checks in, where we check on each and every one of their progress reports, and if you're having any issue also, we really have a very good communication channel whereby anybody encountering any problem, we're able to speak and say, "Ah, I encountered this problem, how can I proceed from here?" And each leader, each team leader also can also check in on anybody at any point in time. We have an open communication channel and shared ownership of deliverables. So it's not just uh, your work, it is our work. It is our work. It's not just my work, my work, my work. It is our work. Then the quality and integrity. We have consistent documentation protocols. Uh, we're going to have a kind of that central data storage whereby you can easily store in your data and we all see at the same time. And then we also have guidelines for all the field engagements, which will be clearly stated and explained. Then we have evidence to action. Every findings directly linked to strategic implication. Insights are translated into actionable recommendations for unblemished advocacy. And then the last approach here talks about the stakeholder sensitivity, where we engage schools, parents, educators respectfully. You know, most of these schools might be established by some of these stakeholders that we'll be approaching. So you have to be very sensitive with the way we engage them. We don't just You might have a premonition about a school. But you don't. There is a way you speak to someone and don't make the person feel bad, or rather get more information from, because the person might not even see that what he's doing is wrong. Why, if I'm to interview like the school where my friend is working at, and to interview such a school, I cannot approach them and say, "Ah, I heard your teachers travel to mark WAEC." It will actually send a signal that I was already pre-informed or I have a premonition about what they are doing in such a school. So we engage them respectfully. We protect participants' confidentiality throughout the process. Some people might be opportune to open up some, to you about some information, but you have to protect their confidentiality. And that's why uh, there are some reports that we might need to use studio names and not the actual name, both either for the respondent or even for the institution they might be representing. So what is the structure going to look like? Uh, the structure is very simple. That'll be the next slide. We're going to have the research coordinator who we are now going to have three different sets of people. You have the field data team, those who actually go out to conduct surveys and interview. You can go to the next slide. Can you hear me? Okay, thank you. So we have the research coordinator who is going to be the overall who's going to take over the overall strategy, quality oversight, stakeholders, communication, and progress tracking. And then we are going to have the field data team. This set of people are the ones who will be in charge of the calls to conduct surveys and interviews. They'll be the ones to go to schools and observe, and they'll also be the ones to facilitate focus group discussions. And then we're going to have the analysis and documentation team. This set of people are the ones that will be in charge of transcription and coding, the pattern and theme analysis, and then draft reports section. So we do want to actually, the first draft actually come from this team. And then we're going to have the stakeholders and communication team. Uh, these ones are the ones in charge of school and parents coordination, institution, licensing, and consent and ethical administration. So these three teams will be reporting directly to the research coordinator so that he will give an overall insight into into the project. And how is this team going to be managed? This team is going to be managed with through weekly team meetings, so that these probably might maintain a Saturday evening like this for our weekly meetings to review what is being done for that week and strategize for the following week. And we're also going to have a WhatsApp group for each team, so that for easy information, for information that might not be able to wait till the to Saturday, where we are going to have our weekly meeting. So we actually pass across informations and uh, work on it immediately. Then we're also going to have a fortnightly milestone review, where at the end of every fortnight, that is at the end of every 4 weeks, we actually review, have we been able to achieve what we plan to achieve. And then we're also going to have coordinator to fellow mentorship. Like I said yesterday, it's a learning process for everyone. You are going to be learning from one another in this projects together. So it's a learning process for every one of us. So what is the timeline going to look like? That is the next slide. The timeline. Uh, this project is planned to be achieved within 8 weeks. Planned to be achieved within 8 weeks. So we're targeting 6 to 8 weeks. And we actually fixing some buffer weeks to accommodate times whereby we might have little issue here, here and there. So, and the week 1 and 2, the first 2 weeks is called the design and preparation week, where we finalize research instruments, we brief ourselves about the instruments, we secure school access and consent, and then we begin the literature review. That is what we are going to be doing the first two two weeks. The next 2 weeks is going to be the field work and data collection week. That is week. No, that will be 3 weeks. Week 3, 4, and 5. Field work and data collection week, where we actually deploy survey to school, conduct interviews and focus group discussion. We have school visits and observation, and then we continue with our documentation. And then uh, week 6 and 7, we now transcribe the data. That is the data analysis and reports drafting week, where we actually transcribe and code the data, identify patterns and themes, draft the foundational reports, like the first draft, and then we have the internal review and revision. And then the 8th week, the finalization and the deliverables. We have the final reports and data archived. We have a summary slide deck together. Then we have the strategic recommendation memo, and then we hand over this project back to uh, Unblemished Advocacy. So that is the timeline for the for this project. 3 months, yes, but as much as possible, we try to see it can be achieved within two months. Next slide, please. Next slide. So next slide is talking about how data will be collected, and then how stakeholders also will be engaged. Data will be collected through survey, interviews, focus group discussions, school visits, and through definitely secondary resources, literature review. That is reviewing existing reports, studies, and national educational uh, trends as we have them in libraries around. So these are our data will be collected. How these where most of us will be actually be working. A few of us, those of us on the first group, we actually help with the survey, conduct the interview, conduct this focus group discussion, and the school school visits. And then how is our stakeholders going to be engaged? For students will be engaged primarily. Uh, Students are our primary focus, and they'll be engaged with most of these instruments primarily. So they'll be treated with dignity, must be treated with dignity, and not as problematic subjects. Should not approach them to say, you people are always engaged in exam malpractice and the rest. No, you should actually engage them to, there's a way you can engage a student like, even though you don't cheat yourself, you've never cheated as a person, they can just feel like, this is how to used to do now, like you participated in it before. So that would actually help them to open up to us most times. Then, how do we engage teachers and educators? We engage them through semi-structured interviews, and then we have contexts on classroom dynamics and culture. Asking them what are those dynamics they apply in their teaching learning process, and what is the culture of the institution like. Yeah, for those of us who study education, that is what they call the, is it 7 learning areas now. Growing up all through my educational journey, I don't think I've seen a school that really have these 7 learning areas well highlighted in their context. So, what is the educational culture like in the school that the teacher is teaching or the educator is actually working? Then we have the parents. How do we engage parents and guardians? We actually engage them to inquire about their home environment. What is their environment like? How is their environment contributing to the students' learning culture? And what are their expectations as parents? Are you a parent that just solely rely on what the school is giving to the students, your child, and not reviewing what the child does at school each time the child gets back home? Or you're a parent that sees what the child does in school by checking yourself or engaging extra school uh, lessons? Or you're a parent that does not give room for your child to play at all? You know, that is, all these things have a way of contributing to the child's learning. A child who don't play at all, who just morning to night is book, 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 and book. You can't compare such a child with a child that he has a time to play, he has a time to read, he has a time to socialize, and the rest like that. So, what are the expectations like, and what are the pressures parents give to their children? Then we also engage school leaders by asking them what is their institutional culture like, what policies have they laid down for people to run with, what are the disciplinary mechanisms installed in place, and what are the support systems they put in place for the teaching learning process in their school. The education stakeholders, we engage them by asking what are the broader policy contexts. These are most things we actually get from books, but a few of them, if the need arises, you might probably approach a few education stakeholders to ask about the broader policy contexts. We also engage NGOs to ask about their insights and also look at the national trend to ask question about what they do or how they plan to do what they are out to do. So that is about the data collection and stakeholders engagement. That is what we should be expecting in that regard. The next slide. Yeah. So what are definitely for every project there are potential challenges that will arise in any project. So how do we plan to engage these challenges that might arise? Firstly, let's look at the challenges that might arise. The first challenge are fellows, field delay, and absenteeism. and this we're actually experiencing since yesterday. Uh, I know that while we started the meeting yesterday, very few of us here at the very beginning, and even today also, while we are starting, I think we were just five or six, and at the moment we are uh, about 13 of us on this call, 13 or 14 of us on this call at the moment. So you see that the very first potential challenge that was identified is very true. So yes, we know that a few of us might encounter some delays on the field. Some of us might just choose to be absent while uh, on the call like this, or even on the assignments that will be given to us. Another challenge that potential challenge that we could encounter is school access and cooperation. Some schools might want to close their doors, especially now that we even have uh, issue of security challenge arising in the country. So some schools might want to close their doors against us. Then the subject matter I want to ask also, some schools might not be too free, especially schools that engage in examination malpractice. They might not be too free to open their doors to us. Somebody was telling me mention the name of the state, a state in Nigeria that all the schools in that state are special centers, and I was like, you can't conclude like that. He was like, no, he knows what he's saying. That all the schools in that particular state are special centers. So we might have encounter problem with schools. Some of them might not cooperate, give us the full cooperation that we might need. Another challenge, potential challenge, is low survey response or data quality. Uh, for instance, for our questionnaire, where people might just need to tick. Some people might not even read the column before they tick. Yeah? Apologies to non-Yoruba speakers. Uh, just pick anyone that comes to mind. Then another potential challenge is student reluctancy or fear of conduct. Students might feel very reluctant, feeling that if they should divulge such an information about their institution to researchers like us, what will be their the fear of being disciplined and the rest. So what will be their fate if they allow such an information to go out? And peradventure, such a student is even already thinking that I already write when I write my WAEC, if I should release this information, hope it's not going to affect me when I'm writing my own examination. Sorry, I'm using more of secondary school in my explanation. Then another challenge is data loss or documentation failure. At times, probably while you are trying to collect the data, maybe some papers fell off, or trying to save it on the cloud, it was not properly saved, and maybe it's a system crash or a system glitch here and there. So that's another potential challenge. Then we also have this issue of scope creep or timeline drifts. So how are these challenges going to be mitigated? For the first challenge, which have to do with delay and absenteeism, that's why we are going to be having a fortnight meeting before we move to the next stage. So we are going to have a build up for 2 weeks buffer to ensure we actually achieve our goal for that first stage, so that we can cross assign fellows to cover gaps, maintain reserve pool of 3 additional fellows where we might not find a few persons to work with. And let me point it out at this point in time that once we assign you an assignment and you are not able to deliver, you are actually not condone. Actually, we can first give you a benefit of doubt to give you more room to deliver. And once you are not delivering, actually assign your role to another person. And I know what you understand what that means once you are not able to deliver. Uh, for the second challenge, which have to do with school access and cooperation, we actually We mitigate this by giving letters of introduction early, and using existing institutional network to engage institutions ahead of time. And we also will give a kind of flexible schedule. Yes, I know that even for us fellows, we are actually engaged one way or the other, either as school, as students, or maybe having a side job or a mere job at the moment. So we're actually going to have a kind of flexible schedule that will fit in both for fellows and, and schools. Uh, for the third challenge, one way we plan to mitigate around this is to have a pilot test instrument that will actually help us detect ahead of time if such an instrument will be uh, viable. Then we also will train, like it was stated yesterday by Darasimi, that we are going to have quite a number of training, which have already started, everyone on data quality standard. We allow for follow-up rounds and the rest like that. So the training will actually help us to mitigate against this. Then for the issue of students' reluctancy and the rest, we actually will promise, in fact, that is what we call ethics, research ethics. We promise them and emphasize our issue of anonymity. Try to ensure, let them know that no, what you are telling us, they are not going to, your name is not going to be attached to such uh, an information. So we use neutral languages. We build reports before data collection begins. So, but I've built a kind of relationship with that student even before you start your interview, conducting your interview and the rest like that. And then for data loss and documentation, we're going to have a cloud-based storage, Google Drive actually, to help us store our information ahead of time so that we don't lose any information along the way. Then we have a dual documentation plan. While you are saving it on the cloud, you must also have a copy in your phone, and then we have a weekly data audits, which I will actually oversee that in my own end. And then for the scope creep and the time drift, our weekly meetings will actually help us with that phase. So that's that's for the potential challenge and milestone. Then let's go to the ninth slide, which have to do with the deliverables. And the ninth slide. Yes, thank you. So the delivery of the final research and outputs. So these are our deliverables. The first is the foundational insights report, where we are going to have an executive summary, an introduction, research objective and methodology, key findings across all the five thematic areas, pattern analysis and student voices, and then strategic implementation and recommendation. So that is for the foundational insights report, which is the primary deliverable. So the supporting materials are the research data, which will include all the questionnaires and interview guides, the focus group discussion, transcripts and observation notes, the coded survey summary, the concepts documentation, and the organized references that can be used for future purpose. So that is the second deliverable that we have. And this actually will not go to the public. This actually meant for unblemished advocacy to keep. And the third deliverable is our summary slide deck, which is the communication tool. What are our key findings at a glance? We should be able to have a kind of uh, projection that can be given virtually on all the social media handles. So the key findings at a glance, the trend, visualization and statistics, the strategic implementations. How do you think this can be implemented? Then we'll propose a next step for unblemished advocacy as an organization, what they can run with, and then uh, we also propose suitable sponsors and stakeholders. And then the last deliverable is the strategic recommendation memo, the action bridge, which is prioritizing intervention areas, mentorship model proposal, outreach focus recommendations, and then 1 to 3 years advocacy roadmap. You can actually propose a roadmap for unblemished advocacy, and then we also give a research in view, search for African translation. After this research, what's next? So we can actually have what we usually call uh, uh, propose. I can't remember now at the moment. At least we can actually propose something in view for the next research. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Edward. Is there any question uh, from the research fellows as regard what Dr. Edward has said? Is there any question, any clarification? Let's ask our question now. All right, Mr. Abdullah Yusuf, you can speak.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Hope
Good evening.
everyone had a good day, and thank you very much, Mr. Edward, for everything you talked about tonight. Okay. Well, I have been in the meeting for quite a time now, and but if I missed the first 10 minutes of the meeting, or the first part, I think I joined when it was at slide 3. So I don't know if there's anything around slide 1 and 2 that is worthy of knowing, because I felt there's some information that I was unable to completely grab as he was proceeding. So my apologies for that, and I don't know if you can just maybe give us a brief recap of what was said in slide 1, 2, and 3.
Okay. Okay, can I get other questions so that
Is there any other question? Is there any other question?
while we are waiting for other question, let me quickly just give a recap. What I just said in slide 1 is just to state uh, the theme for the research, or what we call the research title, which have to do with. Sorry, can you just let me click on slide 1? Yes. Let me click on slide 1. Yeah, thank you. No. Yeah, so on slide 1, you could see the title or the research title clearly written: Understanding Student Integrity and Learning Culture in Nigeria. That is actually the theme we are actually working with. And slide 3 is just giving an insight on the major areas or pillars that we're working with for this project. Is that okay? Slide 2 is just an outline of what I discussed all through.
Okay, yeah, it is. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So is there another question or clarification? Okay, in the absence of questions or clarification, we have the team lead for the unblemished advocacy on the call with us, and we'll be taking up the session, the short session now. We were supposed to do that yesterday, but we